Hi there, everybody. John Gums here with Dakota Grappler, going live with the Coaches Show for Wednesday night. This is episode 12. We got two great wrestling guests with us tonight to talk some wrestling here in North Dakota. We have two coaches out of Minot. How I got them the same week, I don't know. Got them both the Minot guys, but we got Justin Racine, Coach of the Year, returning state champions, Minot High. Quite the run last year, and I never saw a bigger smile on his face, except for that late Saturday afternoon when he knew he had it. It was one of those things that, as a wrestling person, fan, whatever you want to call it, I had goosebumps just seeing him do it. So I was so happy for him. That was pretty cool. And something that, when people experience it, there's nothing like it because there's so much hard work put in. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then on the other side, we got Steve Lipp. I joked about it a little bit last night. Steve and I had wrestled in the past when he probably weighs 100 pounds less than I do now, but going way back, it was Lip versus Gums a couple times. So some of the anatomy of the face wrestling, I don't know, but other than that, we'll talk mostly today wrestling. We won't get back into the history so much because I think I took a few lumps in Steve's era when he was wrestling. But we will definitely talk about that. But I'm going to start off with the coaches right away. I'm going to want to talk to Steve, and he's kind of had a new role the last couple of years here. He's kind of taken over a program from a private school. If you guys don't know, and I'll let him talk about it. But he was a very successful chiropractor up in Minot, and now has a totally new job at a privite school. So I'm going to let him start. Tell him about his position and what he's doing, and tell me a little bit about where he's at with his wrestling team right now at this part of the season.
All right. Thanks, John. Yeah. So, Bishop Ryan's had a pretty long, strong history of wrestling, way back into the 60s through the 70s, a lot of runner-up teams to Bismarck High back in those days, and Class A all the way up through 1991. And so pretty successful wrestling. I was a chiropractor for 21 years in Minot. And then here about 4 years ago, I decided to sell my practice to my partners at the time and go up to Bishop Ryan as the advancement director. And so most of the public schools don't understand what that means, but at a private Catholic school, the advancement director is really in charge of all the major gift fundraising to kind of keep things rolling. So, we rely on our alumni and businesses around the area to help us out so we can try to keep tuition at a reasonable cost and keep things rolling. So
how many kids are in Minot Ryan right now? Because I know you guys went through the transition several years ago. Now it's been 18, 17, whatever years it was, going from Class A to Class B. But tell me your enrollment.
Yeah, so in the past we had two elementary schools, Little Flower and St. Leo's, which have now closed, and it decided to go under one roof. One of the schools flooded in 2011. So we are now a pre-K through 12. We went through a major renovation here in 2012, and did a capital campaign to add on to the school for the elementary portion of it. So pre-K through 12 right now, our enrollment's about 435. Okay. I think we have right around 110 or so in that 9 through 12 when you consider the enrollment for, Class B eligibility. So we're considered a pretty small Class B school, actually. So for us to be able to, field a full lineup is, I think, pretty remarkable, and to have a successful basketball program at the same time. So pretty proud of that.
Yeah, well, definitely. Tell me a little bit now. This year, you guys have already gone through the duels in your region, and what does it look like for you this week and for your dual stuff coming up yet? Yeah,
I think all the teams in throughout the whole state have been kind of suffering from injuries, and here most recently, the last few weeks, it's kind of started at the East-West crossover with sickness, and just a lot of flu, influenza A, strep, bronchitis, pneumonia, just kind of hitting all the teams. We got hit with that a little bit this past week. Our dual team is pretty solid. I mean, we don't give up any weights, which is good. We finished the season at 15-2. Our two losses coming to our in-region rival with Velva. Velva's pretty strong. Tomorrow we go through the seeding for that duels. And so, it'll be interesting to see who those top 5 teams are. And I think that, other than Lisbon being really the strongest team in Class B right now, I think we can compete with all the other teams. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see where the matchups are, and if we can, try to make a push towards, hopefully we're on the bottom side of the bracket and make a push towards the finals. So this weekend we have the regional tournament coming up in Burlington. So
how close have your duels been against Velva?
24 points, 26 points. So, just a couple of swing matches that kind of went the other way on us. At 120, we got pinned by an individual who won the lineup. The other kid we had tech falled, and then another match that switched the other way when we were winning 15-6. We were really trying to push for the pin and kind of slipped the wing and got headlocked, and all of a sudden it's 12 points the other way. So closer than the score, I think. Heavyweights went into overtime. We came off on the short end of that one. I think that both teams, if we were both healthy and wrestling well, it would be a closer duel, and I think it'd come down to just a couple of matchups.
Sure. So everybody wants to be opposite Lisbon. It sounds.
Everybody wants opposite Lisbon. Yeah, Lisbon is definitely, I think, the strongest team in Class B right now. I think both individually and duels. They're so solid up and down the lineup, and they're going to be hard to beat.
How often have you got to see the Bowman and the Hettinger Region 4 guys?
We saw them in Linton. We saw them at the East-West. We haven't dueled either of those teams. The only teams we dueled out of region were Harvey, Beulah, Linton, Lemoore, Kindred, some Region 1 teams, a couple of Region 2 teams. Bowman's pretty solid. I know that they beat Velva by about 20 points in their duel. And Velva was missing a few guys too, and I think that's a closer duel as well. But Bowman's a strong team. I know that they've been kind of bit with a flu or a mono or something.
Right.
At East West, they had some guys out of the lineup, and but if they're healthy, they're a pretty solid team.
Yeah, when I first saw one of the earlier results when Bowman beat Hettinger in a duel, I'm going, oh, betcha, that's been a lot of years since that's happened. So
yeah, Hettinger's strong from 106 through about 138. They're pretty solid, and then Anderson at 170. But they have some holes in the top end that exposes them a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, they're a solid team, and I think tournament wise, I think Hettinger is probably a little bit stronger tournament team than they are a dual team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those guys, Berwick and Shaleski and the Warbuses and Anderson at 6, they can place pretty high, which helps them out in tournaments.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift over to Class A now. You guys are getting ready for the duel also, and I tell you what, Bismarck High has been on a roll. But how are you guys looking, getting all you guys back and healthy and mind going into the region tournament and so forth this weekend?
Yeah, Bismarck High is a tough team to beat. When they were here, and they handed us a pretty good loss. I think we lost by somewhere around 15, 16 points, somewhere in there. And they're a tough team to beat. So we're gonna look to the first round of the tournament. We can't look past anybody. We got Fargo Davies, and they got some definitely got some good individuals throughout their lineup. So we got to look for that one, and we just tell the guys we can't look past any duel and go from there. Region wise, again, Bismarck's tough. They got another guy back in their upper weights where they had a hole before, and so that makes them even tougher. That to be honest, but before he came back, they were kind of head and shoulders above everybody. So now with Hintz back in the lineup to score him some points there, that's they're going to be tough to beat. We're going to have to be on our A game and try to get some upsets throughout the tournament.
Well, you would know how that works, because I tell you what, last year you guys were the underdogs. You kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles. You guys have been wearing the masks last year, and because you guys came out to Century last year, had the big, everybody thought they were going to probably have a chance to run away with it, and you guys just stuck to your guns and did what you had to do, and so you got to take that same mentality. If you could somehow mix up that little recipe again this year, tell me the healthier guys up there, Minot and everything.
I think we, besides the two big injuries early in the year, the two seniors that we had go down, You know, we got injuries, but everybody's got injuries, and we preach that to our guys. And there's nobody that's wrestling at this time of the year that isn't hurt or banged up. You know, so that's not an excuse. We look past that and you got to wrestle. You got to wrestle hurt. Everybody's wrestling hurt. Everybody's playing hurt in every sport at this time of the year. So, you know, nothing big catastrophic injuries right now, knock on wood. But besides those two, like I said, but we're you know, a little banged up here and there, but we'll wrestle through it.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I wish you the best of luck as that goes. Now you guys are setting up for the region. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the region tournament and where it's being held this weekend first? Then we'll talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, we decided to go with the dome. We got a little bit more space there than at the high school for warming up and more seating and stuff like that. So that'll be exciting. We held it there in 2013, so 5 years ago, and it seemed to be a good venue. Like I said, we got plenty of space to warm up and whatnot. So wrestling starts at 9:30 on Saturday. It's going to be exciting. You know, we got a good group of seniors, and it'll be fun for them to wrestle on their home mat one more time and right before we go to state.
Okay, well, very good. Okay, let's talk a little philosophy. I always ask a couple coaches now when it comes to the end of the year, both Steve and Justin. What's kind of your philosophy when it comes to the ending of wrestle-offs or figuring out who is going to be your extras? And I know in Class A they get extra. In Class B, since you're also in the dual, you've got a few extra guys you might be able to have on the side to bring along. Are you trying to encourage some wrestlers by bringing them along, or do you got guys kind of set up where you can kind of adjust weights? First, I'll start with you, Steve, on what kind of your philosophy is going to the state with your dual team. And the guys going. You got regions too first. I know that, but
great. So we kind of end our wrestle offs that week of the East West. Kind of try to solidify our varsity guys. Excuse me. When it comes to the dual team with our extras, we do have, so we have a full team with then 3 extras. We're fortunate. Really kind of trying to space them out a little bit. Have an extra 106 pounder who's pretty solid, and then try to find a guy that's in the middle of the lineup and then a guy towards the top, so that if we have anybody that's dinged up in the state tournament, or if we want to try to avoid or change up the lineup a little bit, we can slide those guys in and readjust the lineup that way. I think that's kind of what most teams try to do. We're not as deep in our dual team as we have been in the past as far as our extras. And so kind of just determined as to, who's been working hard in the room and where they kind of fit into that middle of that lineup, who's been healthy. And that's really been the main thing that we've tried to decide on the extra guys. So,
yeah. It's kind of cool going into the state wrestling tournament. I don't know why I keep thinking of this, but I'm going to bring up something about Steve. Your senior year, you got to wrestle at home at the state wrestling tournament.
Yeah, it was my junior year. Yeah.
Your junior year. Okay,
because you was at the Dome. Yeah,
that was your junior. Okay, because I was trying to remember exactly how it was, but as you're warming up, I don't know if you remember this. There were so many more cheerleaders back then, and for some reason, you're jogging around the mats, and you had your cheerleaders, and your cheerleaders grabbed. Now, I don't know how many other teams, but it was like whoever you were facing, they didn't like for some reason in that finals. And you had like 10 teams worth of cheerleaders cheering for you versus the other team had their cheerleaders on the other side of the mat. I don't know why I remember that.
I don't remember that. I remember who I wrestled. It was Eugene Nagel from Century.
That's probably why it was. Yes.
I don't remember that specifically.
Well, it's kind of funny because old Eugene, I've seen him a few times. That was previous to when I moved up to Century. That's correct, because it would have been that was the year that I was in Napoleon still, and I went there as a spectator because Class A and Class B weren't together. I went as your junior year, I was a freshman. That would have been right. And then your senior year, I was a sophomore. Correct. That's right. I forget that I was thinking you're only 1 year older than me, but you're 2, old man. Yeah. Okay, back to philosophy with Justin. When do you kind of have your rules set out and wrestle offs? I had a coach from South Dakota a while back talk to me, and he says that he stops wrestle offs the week of regions, that he lets them wrestle off through regions. And I'm going, oh man, you're pressing it. But you never know. It depends on the formation of your team and if all the guys know. And sometimes people aren't wrestling off anymore because they already know what their kind of role is on the team. But how do you guys handle that in Minot?
Yeah, I'd say we go the week before regions. Last week was our last duel against Turtle Mountain, and we had to wrestle off that week, and that was kind of to solidify the lineup. We want to go in there with the guys knowing who the next guy up is and whatnot like that. So I feel that week of regions I wouldn't really feel comfortable, and the guys wouldn't like that. I think they need to know. And then when you're choosing, we got a little. I mean, obviously in Class A we have a little bit easier system. It still makes it tough, no doubt about it. I think if there's 14 slots, you're going to be picking that last guy, and we have 17 slots, so you're picking that last guy again. And so we have to go, and first of all, we with those last 3 spots, we have to decide of like right now, I have a backup 220 pounder that's ranked in state, so obviously he's a senior. Then we have to decide from there what guys have the best shot at making it to state, making out a WDA, and then after that, which guys have the best shot of placing in the state tournament. And some of those, we had those talks with our kids today. Some of the different kids that said, hey, we got 4 guys here and we have to decide. And I'm sorry that, that's just the way the sport is. And it's definitely not easy as you guys know, choosing those things. But we have to put our, the team is, you have to decide on the team and what's, luckily we haven't had any kids that were, had discipline problems, because that makes your decision a little bit easier. So if you have discipline problems, then it makes that decision a little bit easier. But also then we have to decide duels is we have to win that first duel against Davies, and then look forward to, if we advance, who's the next team that we think is going to come through. And we have to set up our dual teams for that, because every team is a little bit different of how you bump guys in and out. And I know, like last year, we were in the semifinals against Bismarck, and we kind of stacked our chips to beat Bismarck and get in the finals. And then after that, we were going to wrestle straight up. Well, obviously we lost in the semifinals to Bismarck High, and we go into 3rd and 4th and kind of take a little bit of a licking from Mandan, and we're not set up to bump any guys around. And so things like that, you kind of gotta set your guys up for that. And it's not easy, but it's part of the sport.
Right. I look at that, and the people that are in the duel, you don't have as many matches, but it's the ups and downs. You got to get your guys up so many times because the competition is there. You actually might be wrestling the same guy back-to-back matches, and you might have just won, and that you can't rest on your laurels of having to, you got to wrestle them again. Because I tell you what, the competition is stacked in the duels, and it's a drag on the kids. There's other kids that get to rest and kind of enjoy it, and you got to realize that you enjoy the hard work when it's over. It's and yeah, how did you handle that pressure with some of your guys? I know we talked a little bit about it going into Saturday and how you guys talked, after you lost to Mandan, that your goals aren't done and stuff. Tell me a little bit about.
I think that is very hard, and I ideally I think myself, as well as I know other coaches we've talked to, it'd be nice to have it on a separate weekend because of that. I think a little bit in the individuals, they might be at a little bit of a disadvantage if they're going against a guy that's not wrestling those extra matches. It's not so much about how many matches they're wrestling. It's like you said, the emotion of it. Our team had goals. Even if we were underdogs, we had goals of being a state championship team last year in both duels and individual. And when we lose to Bismarck in the semifinals, obviously that's crushing to kids, and to get those guys back into the right frame of mind to come out and wrestle in the individual semifinals after that is very, very tough. And that was kind of reminiscent of, we had 7 guys in the semis and only got 1 through. And I think, we were underdogs in most of those matches, but we had some of those matches we had beaten the guy before, or we were really close to beating guys throughout the season. And, I think a little bit of that was absolutely the emotion part of it. And the guys were down from the semifinals loss, and it's just hard to get, they got to get over that. I get that, I'm kind of a hard-nosed guy like that, but it is hard. It's definitely hard to get them back fired up. And it obviously showed, 1 out of 7 in the semifinals, and then 3rd and 4th, like I said, we lost to Mandan pretty handily. So that's tough. That's having the state tournament, both of those in the same weekend is pretty tough. Most of those guys are only going to get 7 matches in a weekend with the duels, which is not a crazy amount compared to, going to the Rumble on the Red and getting 10 in a weekend. But they're just more emotional matches, I think, not necessarily tougher matches than a tournament like that, but they're more emotional.
Right. And I think the people cutting weight, it's different too, because usually when you're cutting weight, you like lots of matches and not necessarily a lot of warm-ups and drilling to lose that extra weight. So it's one of those, guess what, I want to eat and I don't have a match coming up. So it's a different pattern for some kids, I think, when it comes to that state wrestling tournament. Tell me some of the speech. Now, we talked a little bit about this going into Saturday. What did you tell your kids after kind of that disastrous Friday? And if you have to look back at it, what again did you advice to some of the younger coaches? You've been around the sport a long time, but yet not a head coach for that long. Tell me some of the things you talked to them, and who were your motivators on the team that kept them going?
Well, we've had Creighton Rudolph and Brody Armstrong have been leaders for us since they've been 8th graders. I'll be honest. They've been, when we were kind of in building the program up in those years. And those two have always been our leaders. Creighton's more of a silent guy, whereas Brody's the vocal guy. And Creighton got up and spoke in the hotel room, which I think, I kind of told him, hey, this is your time. You got to, give these guys something, and he did. He's a great leader, man. He's a coach's kid, and it shows, and he knows the right things to say. And he got up in front of the guys in the hotel room and told them that we need to come back tomorrow. And I kind of went with that a little bit further and said, tomorrow is going to define us of who you are. You get knocked down, you can either lay there, or we're going to get back up and prove, and that obviously at that point, my guys that are around this year that were here last year, and then my assistant coaches give me a hard time about it, but I'm a realist, and I told our guys that I'm a realist, and I don't, let's make a good run at this and get, make it respectable, get 2nd, maybe 3rd, somewhere in there. And we didn't know I didn't punch the numbers. I'll be honest, we were kind of down. We're 60 points down after 2 days of wrestling. And, but you know what, those guys just wrestled, and we beat guys that we didn't beat all year. And we got pins where we needed to get pins. And it was a hell of a fun Saturday. I'll say that.
Well, I saw the shift. Oh, somebody's in there. But I saw the shift happen when all of a sudden you beat the first Mandan kid, and you had, surprisingly enough, all the other wrestlers were helping on the side. So they were watching the other wrestlers come up, and you had enough space, almost like they were back to back on the same matches. So one guy won, and then all of a sudden you beat another Mandan kid that you had 3, like Mandan single-handedly handed you the state wrestling tournament on Saturday. Were you guys the ones you lost in the duel the night before? It was like, guess what? We're taking it to Mandan because we need to beat them. And there it went. And honestly, that I've never seen it where there was just a turnaround night and day between the duel and the next day we wrestled the same kids.
Yeah, it was kind of, we had wrestled a lot of those guys before and had close matches with them. Either we, like I said, either we won and in a close match, or they won in a close match. And our guys just are, I say, as you guys know, as coaches, is you got a game plan for kids every match, and they don't always follow it. And it was amazing Saturday that once, we kind of told them, don't watch the score, the team score, just wrestle, do it for you and your individual bracket. And our guys did that, and you could kind of see they were following our instructions. They were following our game plans to the T. If we told a guy, hey, we got to beat him in the 3rd period, let's keep it close, that's what they did. And things like that, where we were outmatched maybe in some matches and got an upset victory. So And then, you know, once we kind of got into the Conci semis, and then we can kind of tell that we're you know, we're back in this thing, and we had a team meeting and said, hey, you guys in these placement matches really got to focus on what we're telling you and follow the game plan. And it was, I joke around with my assistant coaches that you don't always get that, as you guys know, as coaching, guys don't necessarily follow your game plan to a T, and they really did a good job on Saturday. So it was fun, but you know what, we're hoping that we can do something this year too. So.
Oh yeah. Definitely. How about now? Let's go back to Minot Ryan. Some of your tough competition this year besides Velva. What else are you looking at? You know, going into the region tournament, who else is standing out in Region 3?
You know, Des Lacs, Burlington. They had a few injuries in football that kind of hampered them all year. But you know, they'll have 12 guys at the tournament, and they have some solid wrestlers, and so you know they have some skin in the game. You know, rugby has some solid wrestlers with Zach Meyer and Berg. Their heavyweights rated #1, DJ Schneibel. You know, Region 3 is becoming a little deeper. Teams are having fuller lineups than we have, and I think that the coaches have done a good job of kind of rebuilding the region back to where it was, you know, 10, 12 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's Region 1 for about a 10-year stretch. Nobody could touch them, but yeah, it's back to reality, and some of these other regions are stepping it up. How about now? Let's go a little bit. What do you guys do in the off season? Do you guys do any other coaching, or do you focus on the kids programs?
Yeah, so you know, we started a Little Lions Pee Wee program at Bishop Ryan just with our own kids here last year, and just to try to help develop our program a little bit further. Some of the kids that we just want to expose to wrestling, you know, they're maybe not as serious about it, but they have a lot of fun with it. And right now this year, we started a couple weeks ago, and I have about 34 kids, kindergarten through 6th grade. So, you know, that's really good for us, and we hope that that's going to pay dividends down in the future. Both Justin and I have been involved pretty heavily in the Rattlers over the last 10, 12 years. And so, you know, we both help with that as well. And, you know, I really try to encourage some of my Pee Wee kids at Ryan who are, you know, a little bit more advanced, who want to do a little bit more. Of course, we try to get them over to the Rattlers as well, so they can grow that way. So I think it's really critical for our sport to really encourage our young kids to wrestle. You know, maybe some of the ones that aren't really ready to do, you know, 3 days a week and tournaments every week, you know, weekend for 3 months, you know, are maybe a little bit better off in a Pee Wee type of program. Sometimes they can get a little bit burnt out, perhaps, but I think those kids kind of work it out themselves. You know, they know if they really love the sport, they're going to do the extra stuff to make themselves better. And I just think it's critical.
Has that Pee Wee program you focusing on mostly folk style?
It's just folk style. So we're just going to some of the non-sanctioned tournaments. We have our own tournament here on the 24th of February. You know, we'll go to Velva, we'll go to DLB, we'll go to Kenmare, just kind of hit some of the smaller ones, just K through 6. And then of course, those kids that want to continue, you know, we'll push them towards the Rattlers and have them do freestyle and Greco afterwards. But yeah, we're just doing folk style, working on the basics, trying to keep it real fun for them.
Okay. Definitely. Justin, tell me a little bit. I know you've been involved with the Rattlers for a long time. Tell me what else I don't even know. Do you coach any other sports? Do you help out anywhere else? Or are you just focusing on the wrestling then in the spring and fall?
No, I used to coach football as well. And when I took the head coach job here, it's obviously a lot of time, and I wanted to get more, you know, I've coached at the Rattlers, and once we had our first kid, I kind of slowed down there, and I still helped out when they needed in practices and stuff like that. But now my kids are back in there, and so it's a little easier to get in there for practice. And now I'm there every day of the week and stuff like that, getting more involved. And you know, we're starting a little elementary deal as well. We got 88 kids signed up throughout the city, and we're going to try to get more next year. You know, it's kind of a pilot year where we're trying to go into every elementary school and do a 2-week free program, and kind of like Steve's doing at the their elementary school there. We're trying to get kids out and have fun with it, and get them interested in the sport. I think that's huge, is just getting kids to have fun, and kind of like Steve said, not burning them out. Even my two little guys, I got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old loves it. He loves coming around my high school guys. He loves those guys. They're really good with them. But I think that's part of it. Even if he's not right now, he's not by far the best 6-year-old we have in the Rattlers, and that's not the point. I think he just loves being around the guys, and I'm all for that. If that's what keeps him out, that's what keeps him out until he, someday down the road, maybe he gets serious with it, and he wants to work out twice a day and go to camps and wrestle every single tournament that Dad will take him to. But for right now, he loves to be around the guys and wrestle a little bit. So I think that's a big lesson that a lot of parents should take. I not to say that I'm the best parent in the world by that. That's not what I'm saying. But I think we see, and Steve can admire to this, is we see a lot of guys that are pushing guys too far, and by the time they get to us, they're so burnt out that they don't even want to be there. So I feel that's a big thing for the little kids. Just get them involved and let them have fun.
Right. I think there's such a fine line. As kids, I would do anything to make sure the kids enjoy it and have a lifetime love of the sport more than the successes from it. It's you can learn a lot from it, but I believe you're going to be around the sport and be a positive influence to everybody else if you enjoy the sport, and Absolutely. That does make a difference, definitely. No, Steve, you got a couple boys. Tell us what their successes are and what they're enjoying to do right now. I know you're a dad and coach at the same time. I have not had the joys of coaching at the high school level with my boy yet, but he's a 7th grader, and I've got 2 boys, and the other one's a junior in high school, and I've one that swims. They both love the sport, but one decided that he wanted to swim and loves it. And that's the bonus that I have, that now I'm learning more about how to swim. I kind of was like a rock. Now I can kind of swim, but
right. I think it's tough sometimes when, when you're coaching your own kids, and I had the opportunity to coach my daughter in fast pitch softball when they were real successful there for several years. And, now taking over as the head coach the last 3 years, and had the opportunity to coach my older son who graduated last year. And he wrestled as when he was a kid, he wrestled for the Rattlers, and then he wrestled as a freshman and as a junior, but not as a sophomore and a senior. And now my youngest son is a junior, and he wrestled about through Christmas and decided that he was done. And so, that's always tough, I think, when you have a son who doesn't necessarily enjoy it to the point where he wants to continue. And it's a hard decision. And as a parent, you want to support them. If they're really having difficulties with it, you want to make sure that they know you're okay with it. And so, but that's kind of but it's been fun coaching them as well, and having the opportunity to spend that extra time with them in the room and on trips. And so I missed that a little bit with Murphy not wrestling here now the second half of this season. So
sure. Yeah. It's such a fine line. I don't have advice for most, except just hopefully they enjoy it the rest of their life, because you might have grandkids someday. You could have wrestle too. Oh, okay. Let's get back to a couple other things going on. Now with Minot, you guys, where did you get to travel this year, and what was some of your competition? Now I've followed the Century team in Bismarck. They've got a couple new rules here. They only got to leave the state once. It's kind of their new rule. So Bismarck High did not get to go to the Christmas tournament. They just went down to the Rapid City tournament. It's the only time they left the state. Tell me kind of your schedule, and if you adjusted or plan on doing something different up in Minot.
We try to set up our guys. I try to get as tough a schedule as we can. We also have some strategic tournaments, I would say, in there that towards the end of the year that are kind of easier tournaments that you just want to get right before regions. Last weekend we went into Fertile, Minnesota. But we start off with our tournament at home, and it's just a tournament that we want to get our guys some matches and make them make weight on their descent plan for the first time, get kind of warmed up and get 3-4 matches in there, and then we go to Sydney, Montana, which has become a really tough tournament. They've Sydney tournament was good back, I would say probably when I was a sophomore in high school, which would have probably been 02, 03. And then it kind of went down towards, when I was a senior, while I was wrestling over there, and it was okay, but it wasn't real tough. And then it really kind of went downhill. And now since then, Guy Melby has got amped it up again, because I think a lot of teams were bowing out of the tournament, and they've brought in some teams from like Lake Stevens, Washington. They have Post Falls, Idaho, Columbia, Idaho. So they have some tough tournaments. They bring some or tough teams, excuse me. They bring some teams from Illinois as well. So it's a fun tournament. Our guys go over there, and they're wrestling guys that they don't ever get to see, and it's a tough tournament. A lot of good competition. I think the 132-pound bracket over there, Brody Armstrong won that, and there was 4 state champs besides him in the bracket from different states. So that's fun, man. It's a blast, because you just go wrestle. You don't have to worry about game plans and stuff like that. I mean, obviously we watch the guys and give them a little bit of a game plan, but you wrestle in North Dakota, seeing a guy 5 times in a year, it gets kind of monotonous after a while. But then we go down to Carrington for duels and individual. Rumble on the Red, which is great for our definitely for our top guys. It's a good tournament, and even our middle guys, it was good this year, because they got to see the different level of competition and what they have to get to. We had a couple guys that lost in the blood round and could have placed, and so now they're 2 sophomores especially. So now they know what they got to do in the off season to get to that level that those Minnesota teams are at. So it's a good tournament. But all in all, we try to push those guys in over Christmas break. With Christmas break and the Rotary, we really, to be honest, we try to break them mentally. So when we get to the state tournament, we get in those semifinals type matches. Hopefully, we got a little bit better semifinals round than last year, but those tight matches, they know how to wrestle the 3-4 match, the 1-point matches.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that you have a philosophy on how you're getting to tournaments. That's one person I'd like to get on. Guy Melby, he's an interesting character. Talked to him way back, but I'd like to probably get him on here sometime, because he would have some good things to say. I tell you what, they've had some unbelievable teams out of Sydney in the years, and several guys. How about this?
Yeah, guy's a great guy, and he's got a lot of good things in that head. I try to, I'm a firm believer of all of us can grow every day as a coach, and I pick his mind every year we go over there. I've got a new question for him of, hey, how did you get through this, and stuff like that. And he's always got an answer. He's been there, done that. He's one of the most decorated guys around. That's for sure.
How about your seniors? Have you have some guys planning on wrestling in college or doing any other sports?
We have Brody Armstrong signed with Navy, got a naval or a appointment to the Naval Academy, and they signed him for wrestling. Jacob Mortenson's still talking about maybe wrestling in college, and then Eli Huff signed with Bemidji State actually this morning, so for football. And then Creighton Rudolph maybe play baseball. He's not 100% sure yet. So got a few guys that are signing for different sports.
It's always good. It's good to see as a coach, the success beyond your level too, that they've got goals, and it's not never like, how could you say, I read an article not too long ago about it. There's no finish line. And if you could somehow teach the kids that this is just another stepping stone of life and the process of working hard, and you'll have that the rest of your life. That's the biggest part. And this is just another step along the way. And so how about at Minot? What do you guys got at Ryan? How about some of your seniors there? Anything?
Yeah, we have JJ Johansson as our 170-pounder, just a really athletic kid. He actually signed to play soccer at Benedictine University down in Kansas. Real good NAIA soccer school. He's been a 4-time All-State soccer player for Minot High, and He had some chances to go Division I, but really felt the connection with Benedictine. It's a good Catholic college, and he wanted to kind of stay in that realm. So though, you know, Connor Ledoux, our 113 pounder senior, he's I think he's considering it. And I know that Evan Forty has talked to him a little bit at Minot. So I think we'll see. He hasn't signed with anybody, but you know, he could be a prospect to be a 125 pounder. I think for the long term. It's tough to find those 125 pounders. They kind of tend to grow after high school, it seems. So so that's it as far as our seniors this year.
Okay, well that's good. How about coming into the region up there? Do you have any other seniors you know that are doing anything within the region? And Class B, that is. That's the one place Region 3, and I mentioned this in one of my other shows, that I've paid so little attention, and I apologize to people up there, of Region 3 this year. And so I'm kind of in the dark on a lot of the guys throughout the region. No, Velva, I usually get to a tournament over there, but my swimming schedule has been so crazy. Tell me a little bit more about Velva and what you see coming out of there.
Yeah, you know, Elijah Hackman suffered a season-ending injury, unfortunately, in the rugby tournament. But I know that he is considering wrestling at the college level. Not sure exactly where. I know Concordia has been mentioned. The other athletes, there's a Josh Bauman from he wrestles for Kenmare, but he's from Burke Central. Just a monster of an athlete. And I know that he's considering playing football at Minot State, as well as Colton Miller from Des Lacs Burlington. I think that he's also considering extending his football career at Minot State as well, and possibly wrestling. So some of that might come down to how they end up finishing the season as well. But those are some of the athletes that I've heard of in the wrestling community anyway, that are going to continue on at the college level.
Okay. What has it meant to you to have college wrestling back in Minot? It's been there for a little while now, but I know you guys have went through the transition period there of not having a college with college with wrestling, or the Minot State not having wrestling, and now having it back. What does that really mean to you guys and the success of wrestling in the community?
I think it's huge. And I'll go first, and Steve can fill in the spots I missed, but it's huge for both of us. You know, Steve and I, we were talking about earlier of training, and we'll go to camps in the summer together, Steve and I, so we work pretty close together if we can. And but we both have benefited from middle school coaches from the college, as well as in the little kids programs here in Minot. They're helping out. You know, this weekend at the WDA, they're helping out with that, with table workers and stuff. I mean, they just Evan has done such a great job in the last couple of years with helping out and getting guys in the community. I think Evan's done a great job. It hasn't always been that way, and he's doing an awesome job of getting them into the community and people understanding, you know, that they're more than just athletes. These guys are good kids, and truly they are great kids. A lot of the guys that we have around the Rattlers and stuff, and in our high school room, if we're doing open mats or something like that, and they stop in or whatever, they're great kids.
Okay. How about,
yeah,
what do you think?
I would agree. You know, Minot State wrestling program hits a little bit more home to me. I wrestled for Minot State, and in fact, my senior year there was the last year we had a program in 1990. I remember like it was yesterday, Dean Bachmeyer, the coach at the time, coming in and after Christmas and sitting us down, and the decision was made because of Title IX to drop the program. And I didn't think about it too much at the time because I was a senior, and I kind of thought, well, you know, I'm done, you know. But then after moving back to Minot and not having that program there, you can tell. And I think that it's critical with our sport, especially, to have educators in the schools that are wrestling coaches. I mean, it's tough enough getting kids out for the sport. And if you don't have an educator in the school that's pushing these kids into the room, it's just difficult. And we've seen it, I think, both from Minot High and from Bishop Ryan, the years that we didn't have, for many years, didn't have an educator that was a wrestling coach, and the numbers just start to fall. And so now that the program is back, we're going to see more of those coaches, I think, developing that are in education programs, and that's really going to help us in this area to develop good quality coaches. And if you look through the state and through the region, a lot of our coaches wrestled for these colleges in North Dakota, Minot State and Mayville and Valley City and some of these other schools that don't have programs anymore. And I think that it's really taken its toll. And so we're very, very fortunate. And I agree with everything.
I tell you what, I see it with Valley City. They've had some great help, but I remember the years when it seemed easy because they could always find extra coaches for their middle school programs, and you name it, with Valley City having wrestling. And it hit me hard when they dropped their program, because it's a teaching school. Also, that's their main focus is pumping out educators. And I think it's a detriment to any school if the head wrestling coach and even the assistants are not in that school. I mean, I'll bring it up in the school I'm in right now. I love Melmer to death, but he's not teaching in the Mandan school system. He's in the Bismarck school system, and the numbers are down. The high school, you're just not there to grab them in the hallway. I can do my part. I am in the hallway and I push kids, but I'm not there. I'm not coaching. I haven't been for a couple of years, and I'm hoping that, we got Hellman, who's actually a middle school coach. So we got that in place. But gosh, I tell you what, every piece has to fit in, kind of this big puzzle that you put together. You got to have the right elementary coaches. You got to have the right club working. That's one benefit Mandan's had for several years. They've got a superb club and guys who run that. Pazernick has done an unbelievable job for the Mandan Wrestling Club. And just my sole feeling is that, and I've known this for a long time, once you start losing that head coach in the school system, it is very difficult to keep it going. It just falls off. And you're right there, Steve, exactly what you say. Now, I know that Minot Ryan went for years trying to get guys into the school system. I'm hoping you guys can. I hope you stay there forever. But how is it looking for assistant coaches and people helping you right within your school system, Steve?
We've been pretty fortunate. Chase Lee, I think things kind of turned when Chase was the head coach and was hired in as an educator at Ryan. He was teaching elementary PE and coaching some, junior high football, and really had a lot of hands-on with these kids. And he did a phenomenal job of rebuilding the numbers. And then I kind of came in to help him at the junior high level and as an assistant coach. And unfortunately for him, he had to step down when he took the role as the high school, middle school principal. We've been really fortunate with some really good assistant coaches from the Minot Air Force Base. Over the last 3 years, I've had some really top-notch Division I guys, guys that wrestled at Air Force Academy, Lehigh, that have helped us out as volunteer assistants. And so we've been blessed in that respect. And then we do have a couple co-op schools as well with Nedrose, South Prairie. And so I've had some educators in their system. One of my main head coaches now, Matt Kittleson, is at Nedrose, a former Velva guy. He always gets crap about coaching at Ryan, of course, but
the enemy school.
He's starting to show purple a little bit more and more. No, he's been a really good asset. And in the past, I've had Mitch Meyer, a former alum who was in the South Prairie system. Yeah, so we've been fortunate. It would be nice, Bishop Ryan, we don't have a lot of male teachers. We're dominated by female teachers. And I think a lot of that has to do with pay scale and kind of secondary incomes. And so, we'd like to get some more male teachers in there and eventually find a young guy, maybe from Minot State, who's going to educate and coach and can kind of fit into that system. And I'm going to be 50 in June. So, I can't do this forever. You
just got to hire Rick Mathern in the future. And when he comes back with his doctor wife, and he could be the head coach in a private school. I tell you what, You better start recruiting him now. He'd be a great guy for somebody.
Are you listening, Rick? Okay, you heard it.
Because he knows that his focus would be wrestling first and everything else. Oh yeah, he's got the private background, and he loved it at St. Mary's. He would do it anywhere. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Uh, Tell me a little bit more of Minot High with how your coaching system works. Shout out a few of your assistant coaches who's helping you this year.
Yeah, kind of like Steve said, is getting those guys that are in the system. I know you guys talked on your on your YouTube video last night about the same type of thing. Is getting those guys that are in the system is very, very crucial. I mean, can't say that enough, especially at that middle school level, pulling those guys out of the hallways and getting them in there. And we've really been blessed with. I got a guy that got me into wrestling to start with. I was a basketball player, and he pulled me out of the hallway, and he's still doing that for us. Pete Stenberg, we had 60 guys out this year. That was huge. That's a great starting piece. If you get, obviously all those guys aren't going to continue. I wish they would, but if you can get, if let's say 40 of those kids continue, that's huge for our program. And then we've got a couple middle college guys that come in and help our at the middle school. One guy, he took the first semester off this year, and from wrestling, he was a part-time student, and the second semester he is wrestling, and so that helped us. And he'll be back next year, trying to keep him around. He's going into teaching. That would
Who's
be
that?
Jared Sublett.
Okay. Yep.
He's good kid. Mitch Meyer at Mitch Meyer at the middle school. He's teacher in South Prairie and coaches for us at the middle school. He's very, very good guy. Like to keep him around. Like you said, there's not very many teachers that are coaching anymore, and that is crucial.
Yep, definitely. How about running that the middle school state tournament? What kind of extra stuff you have to do for that? Because it's kind of interesting because everybody knows it's not the official, but yet if you put it that name, you're going to get more people there. But you guys have had a great run with a lot of kids coming up to that. And I think, honestly, this last year was the best year it was run. I've been there a couple different times, and it went very smooth. So I give you the thumbs up. I go back 5 to 10 years ago, previous to you being a head coach, and Minot was hard to go to because the tournaments were pretty tough. You guys did a great job. Tell me some of your stuff you're doing there.
Yeah, we that's a big tournament, and it's getting bigger every year. We appreciate everybody coming, and we got a lot of compliments this year. And last year we didn't get to run the tournament because of the weather. It was like -60, and we just didn't feel it would be safe, and most teams were backing out, so we canceled it. And but the previous year, that was the year that track broke down throughout the nation. The Vegas tournament was down, and everybody's tournament was down, and so we haven't really had a great track record as far as the last couple of years here. But this year, we had it at the high school, and it ran really smooth, and everybody really enjoyed it. And we plan on doing that every year. It's kind of getting stricter on guys getting their information in, and that's helped a lot too. One year we had to add 70 kids, and that makes you start late. So now we're pretty strict on entering them and stuff like that. And no, it's just it's a great tournament. I think the kids enjoy it. Yeah, you're right. It's not an official state tournament, but the kids definitely feel like it is, and that's the key, that those kids have success in that tournament, and they have a lot of fun.
Well, I like that you opened up the old Minot room and had a mat down there this year. You guys got the wrestling down there. One thing that I really enjoyed, because there's so much noise at a tournament, you guys did not make announcements. You just put them up on the screen, and the kids did a good job getting there. It was very few times you had to announce, hey, we need Joe from Velva down at, the mat number 3 or whatever. It was very well run that way. And just the total background noise of having to announce, over on mat number 1, you got so-and-so versus so-and-so. That gets a little old. And I tell you what, I think the kids did a good job. If they knew they had to see their name, they did it. So I commend you on doing that, putting it up on the wall. And I think
the varsity and the older guys in the big national tournaments, and then throughout the state here, have been doing that for 8-10 years now. And when we first implemented that, I don't know, I suppose it was 5-6 years ago, we started projecting it and getting rid of the announcing. it was a little bit of a learning curve for those middle schoolers, especially a lot of them are new to the sport. But that's just it runs so smooth that way, and we plan on getting we're trying to get a big projector mounted in the gym, so that would help with that. And yeah, I think I agree with you there. Is it just gets that background noise? It's loud enough without it. So
okay, yeah, you did a great job. And I've been to Minot Ryan and wrestled there several times too. I brought my kid there. In fact, we were stuck in the dungeon down there in the basement about 3 years in a row, and up at Jim Hill. Actually, no, that's the junior high. I guess we went to Ryan too last year. But tell me some of the things you do with the little kids and how many tournaments. I know you guys are running a tournament on the 24th. Is that the only tournament you guys are running?
Yeah, that's the only tournament we're running. And in the past, we've kind of run it a little bit differently than some of the other schools, where we just kind of we have kind of a 1 clock and we start them all at the same time and just kind of run matches and do different rounds. But I'm getting away from that this year. I'm gonna do pre-registration on track. We're gonna send all the kids to the table and kind of 2 different groups, 8 mats, and kind of run them through like most of the normal tournaments, so people can get their kids out of there. And I think it's going to be a lot smoother and a lot quicker, and we'll run a lot more kids through and kind of run it like most of the other schools do. And so we're looking forward to that. We've been toying with the idea of maybe hosting a dual tournament kind of end of January. We don't know for sure what weekend works, if that would be something that teams would be interested in doing. We do have 2 gyms. We could run 4 mats pretty easily. It kind of seems like that week before the East-West, for us anyway, is maybe a good weekend. I know Watford City is going to be Class A now, so that tournament, I don't know what's going to happen with that one. And the other tournament really going on is the Storehog down in Lisbon. So, we've considered maybe trying to do that, maybe even A and B together and doing a dual tournament. We don't go to any dual tournaments other than our region, and I just think that it's a lot more fun for fans. And with our region having a lot of triangulars, we really only get 2 home duels probably every year. And I think that's hard on our sport, hard for spectators. We had 2 home duels both in December. You're doing senior night, December 9th. It's just tough. So we've considered that. And so, maybe I'll throw some feelers out there to see if that's something that people would be interested in. So.
Well, there's a doldrum there in January, into January, about 3 weeks in a row there where there's limited amount of tournaments. And I know that coaches have been searching. Some people go to Moorhead out there in Class A. And then I know that some people, travel out of state because there is really nothing available. So I think if you really pushed it, I think you probably could find some teams. I know Minot, there were several years you guys didn't have a tournament. Getting one back is key. Almost every town that has a decent sized program to keep things rolling, fan base, parents excited, is to have a home thing. You guys have now run that, about a half a dozen years in Minot, your early tournament?
This is our 3rd year, I think, and we're just, we're changing it yearly to whatever coaches, kind of, we're running it how coaches want it run. If they want, the big thing this year was round robins. Everybody wanted round robins, okay? And so we ran it that way. If everybody wants brackets, that's what we'll do. We're kind of doing it. It's a beginning of the year start tournament, like I said. And but no, I agree. I think it's key to have a tournament at home and get one. That's one less trip you got to go on the road. Our guys, we go on the road 8 times, including state. So we don't have the luxury of going just a couple hours away. Our tournaments are pretty far, and so to have that one at home, that's key. And I think talking about the end of that season is that's a good time to have one. We've been searching for one. That's why we ended up in Fertile, Minnesota. Is I wanted something right before regions that we can stay crisp and clean and stuff like that. And there's nothing around. I checked Montana, South Dakota, and so without going 8 hours for us up in Minot, you're pretty limited.
Yeah, I know that some people in South Dakota, they start having their conference tournaments and they don't allow anybody else in those last few weeks of January and starting into February. You look, they have every team has a conference. It's a little bit different down there, and their conferences have both Class A and Class B schools in them. and so it brings a different flavor. And then they take pride in being conference champions, and so it's interesting. That goes back to some of the old school wrestling that they used to have conferences and so forth, even colleges and so forth. So I don't know, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? We've gone for over an hour already as it goes. Steve, a little shout out to anybody anything you want to talk about, or anybody you want to give heads up to?
No, I just want to thank our fans and our wrestlers for working hard all season, and my coaches who put in a lot of work. For really, most of them are volunteers, and so that's really it. And they love the sport, and I love the sport, and that's why we do it. So.
Okay, well, very good. I wish you the best of luck this weekend, and
thanks, John.
Hopefully you qualify them all. How about you, Justin? Anything you need to say?
Thank you, John, for covering North Dakota wrestling, and Rick Mattern, you two do a hell of a job of covering it. It's a sport that doesn't get a lot of attention, and for you guys to do that, that's awesome. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it too. You guys do an awesome job, and you're in the right place. I tell you what, I said, just kind of a little smile on your face when I went up to you last year at state, and I said, congratulations, because I've never seen a team come back as you did, and I'm really happy for you, and I hope you guys keep the continued success up in mind. I love to see the numbers. Your numbers have been phenomenal the last about 5-6 years, and I just hope it stays that way. I'm hoping all the programs, because it's tough, and keep the formula going. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, John.
You bet. Well, you guys have a great night. This is Dakota Grappler. We're going to do another show for sure next Tuesday. I might do a Sunday night. I had a couple of people last minute wanted to talk about regions, so I'm still kind of planning that out. I want to get a few more shows in. Guys, subscribe so that you guys get notices. I'm not going to do this pretty much except for the wrestling season, and then next year we'll basically tune it up again. But anytime you need anything wrestling-wise in the state of North and South Dakota, I'll help you guys out if possible to promote the sport. It's kind of what my lifelong goals are here a little bit. It's just to make sure people get wrestling the publicity they deserve. Okay, guys. Well, you guys have a good night, and we'll catch you guys soon. Appreciate it. Thanks again.